October 1963. A Senate hearing room in Washington, D.C. The cameras are rolling. This is live, broadcast into living rooms across America. A heavyset man with a low, gravelly voice leans toward the microphone, guards at his shoulders, a death sentence hanging over him that every newspaper in the country has already printed. And then he says two words no man of his kind had ever spoken aloud in public. Cosa Nostra. In that instant, a secret society that had operated in the shadows of America for more than 30 years, a brotherhood so hidden that the director of the FBI himself insisted it did not exist, was dragged into the light. The man was Joseph Valachi, a nobody, a low-level soldier at the very bottom of the mafia ladder, and he had just become the first made man in history to break the code of silence. This is the story of the original rat, the first crack in a wall that had never been broken, and how a frightened killer in a prison cell betrayed the most secretive organization in America and changed it forever. To understand why this mattered, you have to understand who Valachi was, because he was no one. Born in East Harlem in 1904, he came up through petty crime on the streets of New York and was eventually made a soldier, the lowest rank in the organization. He drove, he did jobs, he killed when he was told to. He lived through the Castellammarese War of 1930 and 1931, the great mob war that birthed the modern five families, and he survived it as a foot soldier and nothing more. For 30 years, that's exactly where he stayed. Never a boss, never powerful, just a made man who did as he was told and kept his mouth shut. And keeping his mouth shut was the one rule that mattered above all others. The Mafia survived on a single, unbreakable law, omertà, the code of silence. You never admitted the organization existed. You never spoke its name. You never, under any circumstances, cooperated with the law. Break the code, and you died. And often your family died with you. The silence was so total that for years the most powerful lawman in America, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, publicly denied there was any national crime syndicate at all. The Mafia had made itself invisible, and that invisibility was its single greatest weapon. No one had ever broken it, not once, until a man at the very bottom got scared enough. By the late 1950s, Valachi was behind bars on a narcotics conviction, locked inside the federal penitentiary in Atlanta. And he was not alone. Sharing that same prison was the boss himself, Vito Genovese, head of the family, one of the most feared men in the country. Inside those walls, Genovese became convinced that Valachi was an informer. He wasn't, not yet. But it didn't matter what was true. What mattered was what the boss believed. Then came the moment that broke Valachi's nerve. Genovese pulled him close and kissed him on the cheek, the so-called kiss of death, a signal Valachi read as his own execution order. From that day, he was certain every man in that prison had been sent to kill him. In June 1962, the paranoia boiled over. Convinced an assassin was closing in, Valachi grabbed a length of pipe in the prison yard and beat a man to death. But he killed the wrong man. The inmate he murdered had nothing to do with Genovese, nothing to do with any plot. It was a fatal case of mistaken identity. Now, Valachi faced a murder charge and the possibility of the electric chair, marked for death by his own boss and cornered by the law at the same time. He had one card left to play, the one no one in the history of the Mafia had ever played. Facing execution, Valachi made a deal with the federal government. He would talk, all of it, every name, every rule, every secret, in exchange for his life and protection. For the FBI, it was almost beyond belief. The same bureau whose director had denied the Mafia existed suddenly had a living, breathing made man willing to draw them the entire map from the inside. For the first time in over 30 years, the silence broke. In October 1963, Joseph Valachi sat before a U.S. Senate committee and a bank of television cameras, and he laid the secret world bare. He described the structure, the bosses, the underbosses, the captains, the soldiers. He explained the initiation, the gun and the knife, the burning paper, the oath sworn for life. He gave them the name the Brotherhood used for itself, Cosa Nostra, our thing. He named men. He described murders stretching back to the Castellammarese War. A nation watched, riveted, and J. Edgar Hoover could no longer pretend. The blueprint of the American Mafia was now public record. His testimony put almost no one in prison directly. Much of what he described was decades old and impossible to corroborate. But that was never the point. The point was that he proved the thing existed, gave law enforcement the language and the structure to fight it, and shattered the illusion of invisibility that had protected the families for a generation. Valachi never got his revenge. Vito Genovese died in prison in 1969, untouched by the man he had condemned. Valachi himself lived out his remaining years in protective custody and died of a heart attack in a Texas prison cell in 1971. He brought down no empire. He died a rat, despised by the only world he had ever belonged to. His story became a book and a film, The Valachi Papers, and then he was largely forgotten. But the thing he broke could never be put back together. Joseph Valachi did not talk out of conscience. He talked out of fear and out of a thirst for revenge against the boss who had marked him for death. He was no hero, and he never pretended to be. It didn't matter. For the first time in the history of the American Mafia, a made man had spoken, and the spell of silence that had protected the families for generations was broken. The wall didn't collapse that day, it only cracked, but a cracked wall can be broken. And nearly 30 years later, another made man, a Gambino underboss named Sammy the Bull Gravano, would walk straight through the opening Valachi had made and bring the whole thing crashing down. The betrayal that ended John Gotti began here in 1963 with a frightened soldier and 2 words spoken into a microphone. Joseph Valachi was the first man to talk. He would not be the last.